So what we are talking about today is that your brand is your business. But after the two bios that I've had, we actually realized that you and I are both actually replaceable. We really are. I'm not joking. We are replaceable. We can get as much experience as we like, but we are entirely replaceable. Now, what does that mean? You're disagreeing with me right now, thinking that my product is great, my service is amazing, I'm super. I'm sure every single person here is, but as much as we love ourselves and what we do, which is always going to be fabulous because we have so much passion behind it, there's a competitive world out there. There is someone younger, smarter, more skilled, and doing all the things that you're doing. But how do you set yourself apart? And knowing your strengths to commitment and learning, which is why you're here today, I think it would be important to really understand that your business really needs to become a brand. We often think that you will build something and people will come. My product is so good, my service is amazing, they're going to hear about me. My friends will talk about it, and people will come. And it isn't so easy because people are flooded with choices. There are so many choices every single day, and maybe they'll come the first time because they've heard of you from a friend or they saw you on social media. But will they come again, and are they going to stick with you? And how long will they walk the journey with you? I think that's really the key to making a valuable business, because knowing how hardworking and entrepreneurial our country is, do you know how few luxury brands we actually have in India? We have lots of entrepreneurs, lots of businesses, but how many brands exist in India? Not really so many, right? You'll think of designers, but they are brands of their own, they are people. But are they actually businesses that are brands? And maybe that's because we are focused a lot more on doing rather than communicating, and providing rather than engaging. And how would you really do that? What makes a brand? A brand can actually feel exactly how it looks, like a unicorn. You have to make it real. Try this. If your company were a person, what would they be like? And if they were a person, what would they be like? Bold and vibrant, sophisticated, cool and interesting, warm and caring. Can you attribute these qualities or values to brands that you have come across? Can you attribute it to your own brand? Let's think about this. I'm quite certain, without any logos here, if you were to look at any of these, there would be literally a handful of brands that all of us would live within. If you think luxury watch, anyone want to try this? Let's start with the easiest one. The most beautiful phone that exists. Which one do you think it is? There you go. A new age car. Thank you. A five-star hotel. You could have a few here, but which is the one that comes to? There you go. A luxury watch. And an iconic bag or shoe. That's debatable, but yeah, you're right. You live within a world of brands, and it's easy without any logo, no color code here. But that's because they have taken their business, their idea, into being a brand. You don't need to see anything, and you know exactly which one it's going to be, and that's what successful branding is about. But, you know, and that's when we come to the idea that you think it's a pretty space. Branding is about the excitement to put that amazing logo together, the colors of my business, and this is how it's going to look. But that's perhaps, like we saw right now, where no logos are required, perhaps the least important part. It's important, but it's the least important part because it's a lot of brick work. Like you build this beautiful IFP space that we have here filled with bricks. It's a lot of that brick upon brick upon brick, which you're saying is a part of brand building. And you need to take it from just a product and service to a value offering. And let's try this. If you had to attach an emotion to your business, what would it be? Can you think of that? What kind of emotion would you attach? Like, how does it make someone feel? I'll give you an example. I like making people feel happy. I'm in the business of spreading joy. I could be selling ice cream, flowers, handmade greeting cards, or even be a gifting concierge. But the idea is that you're thinking of an emotion that people can resonate with beyond the service that you're providing, right? You're taking it to the next level because people respond and connect to emotions. Let's see an example. Someone, I think, may have mentioned Parikh in the audience while thinking Rolex as well. But what are they actually saying? You never actually own a Parikh. You merely take care of it for the next generation. So would we say that Parikh is in the business of making timepieces? Or perhaps it's in the business of selling timelessness? They are two different things, and that's the difference between a business and a brand. If you can see the leap that you need to make to really understand how you can go from just telling people what you do to allowing them to resonate with something that is intangible. And this is legacy. Can you ever buy legacy? Here's some more emotion. If this moves, you don't even see the product here. Again, there is no need for product in an ad or a logo. And yet you know exactly, perhaps you do know exactly which one this is. So how would you do this for your business? It's a word when I was sitting there thinking at my desk that how do we capture the idea of brand building in one of those really nice sticky acronyms which can stay with you. I realized that you can do this by Captivate. Consistency, authenticity, perception, trust, iconicity, values and visions, accuracy and precision, telling your story, engaging, creating a community. That is a mouthful, and we'll get to that. But if you manage to do all those things, what you do is you earn loyalty. Loyalty comes in two ways because very often when we are building a business or a brand, we think that we need customers and we forget that we also need people who work with us. We need a team. And loyalty comes from two areas. You need to ensure that your team believes in your vision. You need to understand that they are equally captivated so then they can sell your brand and business like it's yours, right? The way you would do it. And then you will also have repeat customers, you would have low employee turnover, and you'll have stickiness for your brand, which would lead to what most people sitting here would want, the unicorn at some point of time, which is business growth, equity, valuation. At some point of time, if we go to the entrepreneurial myth and we say, I don't want to work in my business, I want to work on my business, and I want to make it super valuable. How are you going to do that? Let's talk a little bit about those ideas of Captivate, and feel free to stop me if you have any questions along the way. Values and vision. Maybe some of you are familiar with Simon Sinek's Let's Start With Why and Ikigai and all of these books that are sitting there temptingly at bookshelves. And if we look at it and we look at ourselves, sometimes we are caught up in the daily run to trying to get the job done. But if we take a step back, give us some time on the weekend to say, I need to know why I'm doing this. I need to put it down, actually put it down. The words for a value or a vision or a mission statement, which can then communicate not just to me, it serves as a reminder to us, but to everyone else around why we are doing this, right? It has to be clear. And what you do, you have to do with regular consistency and precision. we spoke a little bit about, building things and doing things. Everybody can have an off day. But if you are a brand and you want to build a brand, your recipe can't change. You cannot serve up something which is slightly right one day and maybe slightly off the other day and just perfect one day. It's not the Goldilocks vision. It has to be just right every single day and every single time. That's a huge onus to bear, but that's the difference between a business and a brand. Consistency and precision. You repeat and get it right every single time. The story. A lot of what we do here as brand builders is the story. We assume the story is authentic. That's hygiene. It has to actually be authentic. You're telling a real story because you're starting from your values and your vision and what you do. But you have to tell the story which connects to people. This goes back to the emotion. What's the emotion? What's the emotion that your business is all about? And what's the story that you're going to tell people? Social media has made it so easy for people to pick between so many things. It's also made it tougher for businesses. But that's access to your audience if you can do it right, if you can communicate well. Trust. If you do all of these things, they're going to trust you. And that's a really big deal, because today, for somebody to trust you, you need to be able to maintain that trust. And then you come to iconicity. The reason we recognize those brands is because of iconicity. Even here, I think the people in the audience would be able to attach a brand name to the shoe. And it takes nothing more than just a color and a style. So, I mean, how do you build iconicity? What are you going to do to take it? Is it something where you just decide, I'm going to have, I've heard this, I want it to go viral. What does that mean? How can you make something go viral? I mean, if you are deep-pocketed, sure, maybe you can put a lot of money behind some piece and say, okay, this has now got 1 million views. But you need to be able to think about what it is that's really important in your business or your product or your service. And then you think about how you're going to tell that story, and then you put out the right communication. And if you've engaged with your community, you won't need to do anything. It will start becoming iconic. It will resonate. And it's a process. You can't skip a few steps along the way and say, here's a ton of money and let's make this go viral. It isn't. Someone spoke about being very prudent with the spend. You have to be. And that is something that's really, really important as you do it. Perception. Everything that you do, it's your voice. It's how you're speaking to people. And people are going to take something about that back with them. They're going to perceive who you are as a brand. And that's going to be how I think about something. You have a perception of an iPhone. Because I used a word before that. I said beautiful phone, and I said new age car. So there's a perception. If I had said luxury car, you would have had 6 sort of options. But when you say new age car, it's just one. So that perception is, maybe BMW thinks they're new age, but why does Tesla come to mind, right? So there is a perception because it's built through that kind of communication that we have. And at the end of it all, to build a brand, you're talking to somebody. It's a community. You're building a community. Who are your people? They start from the people you work with, but who are your people? How do you find them? Where are they? And how will you speak to them? It's really important to understand. You can start with 5 people. You can start with 1. But you need to sort of take that trickle effect and do the steps it takes to be able to get to people, start talking and thinking the way you are. It is genuinely blood, sweat, tears, and money, but that is the sweet price of brand building. And a lot of you here might say that it's really hard. All of this sounds like it requires a lot of time, effort, and money. But it is that spot when you think startup but deliver brand, because not all brands start with money. They start with an idea. They start with a vision. They start with a desire to put something out there. How do you do it? How do you get through all of that? I'm happy to share a little bit of our own story because we are a startup who are working through the journey of being a brand. In 2019, we were at this little concept store at Altamount Road, and we had a creative agency who wanted to think outside the box. And because we are actually selling precious jewelry, but we have a concept and a collection of ideas, they were like, let's put postcards here, let's have a piano, let's have a swing, let's have a writing desk. And then people came in and they were like, oh, is this a bookstore? And we are like, right, not exactly. Let's rewind a bit here and let's get this sort of the steps kind of, in aligned. And you realize that you are learning along the way, and you are a little guy who is playing in a big, big world. Let's rephrase that, a little person playing in a big, big world, and you want to just be that, you're imagining that unicorn, and you're like, how are you going to get there? So we, the marketing director, Falguni, who sits right here, and I were thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get people to realize it's jewelry and not books or postcards? And we reached out to Shobita, who's fresh and who's young, and somebody who had that kind of newness about her, like we were, like fresh off like something kind of a feeling. And we did a black and white campaign, and people were like, are you sure about this? Don't you want your product to shine? And we were like, it's real stories, let's do things differently. People took notice, and this little cute little space soon became this one that some of you may have seen at Kalagora in a flagship in 2022. And yet, we are still a concept, we are not a brand. It's still the baby steps. We did this change of location, we did a campaign that, by the way, happy to share, has won the Global Red Dot Award this year. Thank you. Which is sharing authentic stories. And you still don't feel like you've arrived. You're just getting started. But those movements are feeling real. They feel like you're making those changes. And the next space could be, Place Vendôme. It could be anywhere else. And that's the dream, right? You want to sort of live that dream. I'll share this campaign with you to see a bit of the storytelling that we had. I think I need one more click.
Her story as a brand was inspired by stories and perspectives of real women. We wanted a campaign that celebrates authenticity of voice, that captures the aspects of women that are aspirational and often challenged by constructs of society. Can a woman be free, ambitious, and a multitasker? Can she do it all without being restricted by voices around her and the conditioning within her? And in it all, we celebrate the beauty of choice of the modern woman.
Freedom, to me, means being able to do exactly what I want with equal opportunities. I think the other big aspect is being free from guilt. And that's something I've learned as a mother.
My life is all about ambition and determination. I think it started with an ambition to be a cricketer, play for India. If even one person will be able to be motivated from my story, do something in their life, it will be really cool to do it.
Balance is not about doing anything perfectly. It's about just doing that task that you have at that moment to the best of your ability. In fact, I don't even think that perfection is something that is a worthwhile pursuit.
I think with her story, I was very attracted to what a strong woman-led company it was. I really felt that sense that it's got a real personal touch from the people who really love what they do and are really invested in what they're making, and I connect to that passion and that love for what they do.
I was actually very taken aback by the kind of authenticity that they were after, because I couldn't quite believe that someone was so very invested in making someone, consumer, the wearer, the admirer, the audience, feel seen, feel beheld.
Thank you for seeing that. That was a little snippet of the campaign that won the award. But the point here is that what is it about it that resonated? We were the only Indians there in this category at Berlin. And we realized that what's really connected is when we do authentic storytelling. The idea here is, did any of these women actually, were they told what to say? The idea was that they represented themselves. And what you take away from this is you all have a thought of who you are. And to speak your story, to be true to yourself, to not try and be like anyone else, is really where authenticity comes from, right? The idea that there's something special that you're trying to put out in the world, that you're trying to create or put or provide, and how are you going to communicate that or be true to yourself? And when you go out there to do some activities, can you do it differently? Can you say, I mean, there are all these sort of, we were always told, you should bring that particular person and page 3 and drop that thing and do that bit. And, it sounded like a formula. And it sounded like a very, masala Bollywood film formula. And you're like, I'm sure it works. That's why people are talking about it. But do you need to do it the same way? Is there a way to do it differently that feels real for you? And Falguni here thought of an idea where she said that if we need to be authentic and we need to bring Smriti Mandana, how do we do this? Because we want to put this together with aspiring young cricketers, an event where children get to actually play with Smriti. It's not about, what we are selling, what we are going to be doing, and wanted to share with you actually what the experience was and how being real can connect.
I'm very big on goal settings. I think the word limitless, which you mentioned, that also connects to that. If you actually limit yourself to maybe achieving this much and being happy about it, you are not going to go forward. It's very important for you to firstly understand that what you can do out there is not for anyone else. It's for your own self or the team you're playing for. Living the moment, because there's a saying that you can't really go back and change things in cricket. You play as a team, and whenever you win a match, you always feel happy that your team is won. But at the end of the day, when you go back and think about your own performance, what you've done, maybe good, maybe bad. My first 100, it was in a losing cause. So yeah, I think failures are going to happen. That is the most important thing as a player, I think, to accept that you failed. And once I think you do that, your life is easier. You don't really go out there and then compare that, because you have accepted your own failure and how you would work on your own failure. Whenever we go out and play for India, I think we always have that belief as an Indian team that we are here to actually inspire a lot of girls to play cricket. It's just what I love doing, and I'm fortunate that my hobby or whatever it is, it's actually my career. Not many people get to do that. So yeah, whatever comes with that, be it like studying extra for maybe weird timings, you just do it just because you love playing.
Thank you. And I think that's what's really special about that, and why we were excited to share it, is what Smriti is saying. What she's saying is something that's important for every person out here, and we take that back home with us every single time. You're here because you want to grow, because you want to go to the next level. And to be able to really, really believe, every morning wake up, believe in that, and say what I'm doing matters. It matters to me, and I'm going to put that out there. And how you put that out there is the next step, right? That's something to take back. And we have something that we're going to share where we know that there are challenges in brand building, and we know that there can be tricky, tough points in brand building where you have to make really tough decisions. How do you do that? All the things we shared here is our journey towards becoming a brand, to being a brand and going places, and yet we come to these famous words by Shakespeare from Romeo and Juliet. What's in a name? At this point, Shakespeare being amazing at everything that he did, we'll have to, from a branding perspective, a marketing perspective, respectfully disagree with the gentleman, may he rest in peace, where we would say that there is a lot in the name, a lot. A lot of importance to the name, a lot of importance to what it really resonates with and lives with. And we're going to make a really difficult decision, which is something that you may come across at some point of time, and you might have to pivot and think about how you're going to do it. At this point, we are going to be changing the name of our brand. And you're like some people here who have just spoke about it, are literally the first people in the city to hear about that. It's going to happen in a few months, and there's a very strong reason why we want to do it. But these are the tough calls that we take as businesses as brands, and it's okay to take it. It's okay to realize that there is a need for change, and you do it. And you accept the challenge, and you think how you're going to be creative about it. And that's the next and the most important part of brand building, is how are you going to pivot and live with that journey. But as a part of the end, and thank you so much for listening, it is a tough journey. It is definitely a journey. We all can feel it. But it's about the experiences, the little joys, the moments, and the challenges that live between the point that you started, the reason why you started, and where you see yourself going. And we shouldn't forget that that's the best part of it. The best things are built in those moments. And I wish you all wonderful, wonderful success creating brands out of your businesses. Thank you so much for listening.